How much do you make? You just had tax issues, right? So you probably know how much you make.
That was a
know how
rounding
much I
error.
owed. I owed over $4 million.
Recently, in an interview with Caleb Hammer, Asmongold said that he's paid about $4 million in taxes, just taxes alone. That's not how much he earned. It's not how much he's earned over his lifetime. We just know he paid that much in taxes.
Okay, so $4 million.
Yes.
Was that after estimated taxes? Was that the back pay?
No, that was my estimated taxes.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay,
Yes.
so $4 million. So you probably make after taxes, what is that?
I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't know what the answer is. I got a 1099 and it was like millions of dollars. I don't even know where it came from.
You probably have $6 to $8 million left after taxes.
More than that, probably. A lot more than that.
Penguin Zero, Charlie, also recently shared on his AdSense revenue alone, he made $34 million, I think in about 5 years, if I remember the timeline.
I'm going to show you my YouTube earnings. So be ready because here it is. Huge fucking number, an unfathomable amount of money. From starting this channel in 2007 all the way until today, I have made $35.8 million.
As a full-time creator myself, just disclaimer, I am not making that kind of money, but some people are. And the question is, do they have to be evil in order to be that rich?
Jesus Christ. I can't believe you're a millionaire. How did that happen?
Because if you know anything about Asmongold, I would say that he's engaging in a lot of philosophical evil in order to stay relevant and trending.
All of the Islamic identity politics people are going to start immediately playing for, sympathy or something like this. We don't even know what who the shooters were. Like, they could also be Muslim. Like, this is the thing. It's like, as soon as this happens, they're trying to pre-flight and craft a narrative, proactively. Well, who knows? Never waste a crisis. Yeah.
Federal law enforcement officials tell CNN they believe the two teenagers who attacked the Islamic Center in San Diego, shooting up a mosque and a school, may have intended to attack other targets that same day and may have been stopped because the armed security guard at that mosque wounded one of them. The security guard, Amin Abdullah, was killed in the shootout.
Never waste a crisis. Yeah.
Dad was my best friend. He's the kindest person you'd meet, the best dad you can ask for.
Never waste a crisis. Yeah.
When I learned that, his actions saved all the kids in the school and deterred them from even, going to the kids. I felt proud and I felt comfort because I know that's exactly how my dad would have wanted to go out, was, protecting people.
Never waste a crisis. Yeah.
The fact that he was the front line, trying to defend the kids and the innocent people, that makes me feel good. So, I feel like that, calling him a hero is the least, the least we can call him,
Never waste a crisis. Yeah.
My name is Hawa Abdullah. Brian Matthew Climax, known as Amin Abdullah, was my father, my dad. He was a loving father, husband, son, brother, and uncle. To me, my dad was a role model. He was a best friend. He was the best, absolute best dad in the world. He would want our community to stand together as one. That's exactly what he would want. And I hope this moment we can all come together and to be kind to one another and to remember who he truly was. Regardless if you were a Muslim, okay, if you were Christian, if you were Jewish, if you had no faith, he didn't care. He would treat you human to human. He would smile at people he did not know. You can see the happiness and just who he was as a person, just looking at his face.
Never waste a crisis. Yeah.
Charlie, on the other hand, I think engages in probably less philosophical evil. If you've never heard me talk about philosophical evil before, it's just something that I've been saying as a counter to your philosophical joy. So, we move through the world thinking we're good people, we're ethical, we have values, we know right or wrong. But because the world is so diverse, it really can be, person to person. So let's say you as an individual maybe act out of turn or do something you're not proud of. You can call that your philosophical evil. And then it's on a spectrum. So maybe you are driving home from work and you get upset and maybe you flip someone off. That is like a philosophical evil that on a spectrum is like not the greatest. It's not something I recommend, but you know, at least you're not Asmongold doing streams, making fun of minorities and punching down on marginalized communities. I would say Asmon, as an example, is like deeply in his philosophical evil. And that's how I want you to think about it as we have this conversation. Charlie, on the other hand, I think engages in probably less philosophical evil, but what he does engage with is trending topics, often within themselves filled with philosophical evil.
But I've started to recognize over the last few months that some of the things I do just really aren't fun for me to do, and I've been doing them out of obligation. Mainly internet drama. When I initially started covering drama so many years ago now, it was fun because it wasn't as serious. Like the stories were a lot, you know, more quirky. It was easy to get invested because it was kind of just like a soap opera, like a really dumb soap opera. But recently it's been much more serious, and I feel the need to talk about these things because a lot of them are extremely serious with very important topics to discuss. But it has become draining. As much as I never wanted to admit it, I've started to recognize that my mood is immediately impacted by whatever I read on Twitter in the morning.
So it does exhaust him to cover it, but it also does bring in the views. This is truly the struggle as creatives in this space, people who cover trending topics or politics, to kind of have to make a decision about the ethics around what we cover. Even last week, even though you guys really received it well, my Tyler catastrophe video was something that I really had to sit on for a while because I was worried that I was going to engage in some sort of online bullying towards a person who honestly probably needs more compassion and needs to be held accountable for the wrong that they did as well. It is a fine line between engaging in personal, direct evil and sort of reviewing evil that puts a lot of us in a really uncomfortable position. I also want to point out that some of the largest voices in political spaces like Hasan Piker rose to fame and continues to go trending for the philosophically evil things that he said.
August 21st, 2019 comes around.
Yeah.
And I say something.
America deserved 9/11, dude. Fuck it. I'm saying it. We fucking totally brought it on ourselves, dude. Holy shit. We did.
Which, by the way, politically speaking, I think he was trying to make a point and he was being hyperbolic, but I think there's something bigger here that's what people focused in on.
Hey, what do you think of the Dems turning Hasan Piker's live stream into some weird litmus test? What's going on with that? Because didn't they want a Joe Rogan for the left? They kept saying
They kept saying it, but they didn't mean it. We have a war, illegal war in Iran, where we're massacring schoolgirls, threatening the end of civilization. You have the Israelis massacring people in Beirut. You have prices at home sky high. You have ICE rounding up American citizens. CNN is doing multiple segments on Hasan Piker.
What were you trying to get across when you said that comment?
You know, the 20th year, the 20th anniversary of 9/11 really was an interesting moment for me because everything that I've said on that broadcast was reinforced through every documentary that came out.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
And then some of those groups became the Taliban, right? They started infighting. Some of those groups became the Taliban, and America was directly involved in this and very openly. So that's what I was talking about, because it was in response to what Dan Crenshaw was saying about how, 9/11 happened because they hate us.
Some of my own party have said that it was a mistake to go to Iraq in the first place and believe that it's not worth the cost, whatever benefit may flow from our engagement in Iraq. But the cost of not acting against Saddam, I think, would have been much greater. And so is the cost, and so will be the cost, of not finishing this job.
Like, they hate us because they hate us. That's it. And it was very frustrating for me to see like a dude who went, served overseas, got his eye blown out, right? To come back and just like keep reinforcing that same cycle of violence. And even using his like veteran status as a way to just like send more men and women overseas to get their shit blown off.
Told me once, shame on you. It fooled me. We can't get fooled again.
I mean, the Democrat Party is literally attacking Hasan Piker for something he said that at the time they couldn't even say themselves, because the Democrats supported the Iraq war and they were more than happy to engage in the killing of 100,000 Iraqi people in the name of whatever bullshit George Bush sold us. So I can see why in many ways Hasan Piker might be a good person using philosophically evil rhetoric in order to go viral or stay relevant in order to push out a generally better idea. And even as I say that, I do have have a lot of issue with the way that Hasan Piker engages in misogyny and ableism in order to push out his leftist politics.
Doing one good thing, which is that, like, if you have these millionaire, billionaire, WASP fail sons, at least taking them out of other colleges so they can only do date rape to other billionaire, millionaire failed daughters is, like, in some respects, you know, from a utilitarian perspective, of course, a little bit better. You know what I mean?
I think what I'm trying to point out here is this question that even over on my stream channel we've been having: can you be rich, famous, and ethical? Can you be a good person?
I early on recognized that if I wanted any kind of sustainability, I knew that I had to be a subscription-based model.
Hasan Piker, aka Hassan Abi, is one of the biggest political commentators on Twitch with 2.7 million subscribers. But he says 50,000 of them are paying subscribers, sending in $6 a month.
The revenue structure on Twitch is they take a 25% cut of all the subscriptions.
If you do some quick math before taxes, that's over $200,000 a month and likely over $2 million a year.
This is the home that got me canceled for buying for myself and my family.
Why do you think that is?
I think people have a very silly, I would say, understanding of what it means to be progressive, what it means to be a leftist. I just make fun of it, honestly. I try to use the house or all these like different controversies as a teachable moment to just be like, listen, this is not a poverty cult at all. I pay my taxes.
So the question is, how much philosophical evil do these often men engage with in order to stay relevant compared to those of us who are still engaged in this space? We make a living, but we're not doing the same thing they are. Are we better, or are we making worse choices? Are we bad at capitalism, or are we just anti-capitalism?
I never even imagined that amount of money was possible to earn without just being born rich. I have said from day one, I got incredibly lucky. I will never be able to put into words just how lucky I got with all of this shit here. I'm not special. I got lucky. I have always said that, and I still believe that to this day.
The reason I want to use Charlie and Asmon as the first examples is because they counter each other so perfectly. They both sort of look similar, but yet are very, very different people. And their content is very, very different. At least Charlie attempts to be a good person.
As you just said, it changes. What if a 12-year-old went through puberty early, the parents consent, the 18-year-old and the parents consent? Can they do it?
Most likely that's not going to happen. You know why? Because Islamically, if
we're not talking most likely, just say it.
If the families have consented, the kid is mature, the kid is ready. Why should I stop
at 12 years old? At 12 years old.
If the kid is physically mature, the parents consent, both parties are happy.
A 12-year-old being physically mature.
If that's the only line that actually makes sense.
Again, I don't think a 14-year-old can ever be physically mature.
Well, Asmon completely gave up. Charlie also did something really amazing, which was, and I know this sounds crazy because he's, worth over $35 million, but Charlie gave up the right to monetization, meaning he turned off monetization on his YouTube channels and did everything he could to stop his viewers from giving him money.
What won't be sticking around, what I'm turning off, is pretty much every way of donating money to me. I'm disabling YouTube channel memberships and super chats.
Which, considering the state of the world, is, the bar is in hell, but it's something and I appreciate it and I think it's a good gesture. Unlike an Asmon who would never think about doing this, because Asmon at the end of the day is a ruthless capitalist. This sort of swings into a conversation around even like a Trisha Paytas or someone who stays relevant by sort of being controversial. Trisha will say, oh, they're just making content for fun. It's, they're artistic. It's just an experiment. But the way that they rose to fame and prominence was basically through personal and sort of cultural exploitation, right? Cultural appropriation. I mean, doing some of the worst, most unethical skits, art performances, if you will.
It was supposed to be like this artistic piece or whatever. And it was like, whatever. It like looking back at it as like, yeah, I was like, in 2022, it doesn't like fit the flow. But like back in like when I made it in like literally like 2010 or whatever it was like, meant to be like artistic or whatever. It's just like people hang on to that and it's like all these spam.
Smile pretty. Do what you're told. Make mommy daddy proud. Mommy, I don't want to play in the basement. It's loud. Washing machine's going. What are you doing? No. Please, no. No. Daddy, stop. Stop.
Pretending to be victims of murder and engaging in racism. I mean, singing lyrics that I don't even want to repeat myself.
He could whip me every night, just like Django.
And even now, current day Trisha is still engaging in what I would call sort of a PG version of the same thing that got them famous in the first place. And again, it's all about using other people to get ahead, to quote, do it better than the original or more controversial than the original in order for people to be shocked. And then in order to make you trending, basically.
Trying to get you to the K-pop charts.
Wow.
I think you'll get to the K-pop charts.
On where?
Billboard?
It's K-pop charts on Twitter.
it's
they have
its own
like
thing.
over 1 million followers.
Oh. I
Because
would.
people say, anyway, I'm looking into it. I'm looking to
He's
see what's
monitoring.
happening before.
Thank you. Oh
say
my
something.
gosh. I'm very excited about this. This is all really new to me. I don't have time to tweet about any drama when I'm in. If a K-pop drama wants my song, though, let me know because I'm down to have it in a show.
So the question is, if your goal is to stay trending, is that the philosophical evil? And because you're trending, you get money. So maybe it's not even chasing the money, it's chasing the views. Recently, Dr. K even talked to Lacey and they had a conversation, and Lacey had this realization that, you know, he hates himself.
So like, let's go back to the cuck chair for a moment. Okay. So did you ever feel like you were in that chair? That's the feeling prior to being a streamer. Like life was passing you by, like you weren't doing as much, right? So I have an idea in my mind, which is I'm envisioning a 300-pound person who's kind of going to college.
Yep.
Dad thinks he's wasting his time.
Yeah.
Life is passing you by. You know, you're supposed to be in college. You're a freshman in college. This is when you're supposed to be partying. This is when you're supposed to be getting laid.
Yeah.
Right? And I can imagine a scenario where you feel like you're watching from the cuck chair as life passes you by, and that doesn't feel
Yeah,
good.
when you say it like that, 100%. I definitely felt growing up like very left out, very isolated. Like I had friends, but I was nobody's best friend. I was kind of always just like there.
And a lot of these streamers, a lot of content creators, I think a lot of us are definitely fighting demons. I think a lot of us grew up a little bit traumatized. I think everyone's kind of traumatized, but I do think there's something about a creative in which we, you know, try to express our feelings to the things that we make.
Because that made me realize, like, he basically told me that because I was so rejected as a kid, that I reject myself now. And that's why I stream so much, is because when I'm live, I don't think about how much I hate myself. And that basically, that's why I just always stream, because it takes away that thought in my brain of not liking who I am.
And I think that goes for everybody. I think Asmongold and the way that he was raised is such a testament to that. I think Hasan and his relationship with his body. I think even Ethan Klein or Trisha or any of these people that, you know, we can talk about, whether it's in entertainment space or political spaces, at the end of the day, the creative element is a cry for help.
It's just totally fucking fatty ass food. And on top of that, he goes, you know what I'm in the mood for? A cookie dough cheesecake. And he just fucking busted out a cookie dough cheesecake and propped it in front of me and went and looked at me and went,
listen,
aren't you in the mood for it too?
I
And
will
did you
say
eat
this in his defense. It's the fucking holidays.
Yeah.
If you don't gain a 10 spot during the holidays,
I can't.
Can't.
I can't because like I've been doing so well.
So you got into looks maxing prior to you know,
Yes, yeah.
you getting chicks. Yeah. Was that a motivation? Those like message boards?
That was, but you know, that wasn't necessarily the only thing I was thinking about at the time. It was more just like an objective, this will improve the quality of my life mentality.
Yeah.
And that was just one of
That's bullshit. That's the biggest bullshit anyone's ever said. No one gets into looks maxing for improving your quality of life. Every single young man that is straight abso-fucking-lutely gets into it because they want to get laid and they want to impress women. Where they go from there, depending on their, you know, mental faculties, is an entirely separate story. His end point might be different, but his start point absolutely was because he probably had a crush on a girl or something and he wanted to impress her. Bro, you were fat when you were a child? Yeah, I was. What kind of fucking point is that, yeah. And I was absolutely all up in these fucking forums trying to figure out how to lose weight my whole life.
I stopped caring about the way that people saw me because I pretty much gave up on being like a normal person. I gave up on being accepted by the public. I gave up on living a normal life or, you know, having a family or anything like that. Based off of my experiences that I had. I was worried about, you know, number one, my mom dying, number two, being homeless, and number three, at that point, I had always assumed that I would kill myself after high school. Like, that was my plan. But, you know, Wrath of the Lich King came out, and I just got distracted. I forgot. Ended up not doing that. And because of that, I never brushed my teeth in high school. Never really gave a fuck about it. Never cared. And this caused, guess what that causes? It causes your teeth to rot out. Right now, I only have 5 real teeth left in my whole mouth. And I think you start with like 32, which is kind of crazy to think. So, you know, missing half your teeth and, you know, living in a dump with a dead rat alarm clock. You don't know if your mom's going to be alive that day. You've got no money. You have to support her. She's never going to be able to support herself. And things are just basically slowly getting worse and worse and worse. And I started doing YouTube, and things started doing a little bit better. I started doing streaming. Things were doing better then. I mean, I guess it's nice, right? Having money is way better than not having money. I don't believe there's any light at the end of the tunnel. I definitely don't think so. I just try to make the best of being in the tunnel. And so that's why I live the way that I do. That's why I do the things that I do. That's why I say the things that I do.
At the end of the day, the creative element is a cry for help. And I say that as myself as well. I mean, I definitely came to the internet many, many years ago in a very hurt place. And only about 7 or so years ago did I, after therapy and philosophical work, end up creating content that was much healthier and better. And I get better every year, of course. I'm always trying to be a less bad person every day. But I do see it. And sometimes I will say that I, at the expense of my money-making career, have absolutely made the decision to not exploit my vulnerabilities. I mean, I'm autistic. I can make a whole viral like video series on being autistic, right? I make adult work. I can make a whole viral series on that. I'm disabled. I have fibromyalgia. I could absolutely, you know, make that a whole thing. I'm a Syrian, like I'm a daughter of immigrants, like I'm one of 10 kids. I was homeschooled partially throughout my childhood. Like I have so many stories I could take and create or mold or twist in a sort of marketing capitalistic way to go viral. You know, I could also cry on my kitchen floor. I mean, I made plenty of crying videos in my day. The only difference is that I, took them down and I apologized and I got stable. I think the thing with Trisha as an example is, yes, she got mentally health much more stable, 100%. But I'm not sure if she ethically did. She still is pretty controversial. It's just because her mental health is so much better that people ignore it. But she was infamously known for being anti-family channels and literally has one. But, you know, everyone makes their own choices with their children. But I think because Trisha just, you know, doesn't really have any principled stances. At the end of the day, they're using whatever means possible to stay relevant, trending, and obviously being an opportunist, basically. And I'm not saying that Trisha doesn't deserve success. I'm saying it's interesting that we keep making these people famous. Because like even with Asmongold, if you look at the trajectory of his fame, sure, he started many years ago playing WoW, but even more than that, the reason Asmon stays so relevant in many bubbles is because he, as an example, has this really funny 2-steak recipe that he makes, and all these chefs who are very prominent make Asmon steak videos, and then Asmon responds to those steak videos.
Everybody, today I'm here with my good friend Joshua Wiseman.
I don't know what's about to happen. All I know is there's a computer screen here and I got headphones in, so.
We are going to be reacting to a $2 steaks from Asmongold.
The cycle continues. And look, there's a lot of fun in watching people react to your weirdness, right? I think a lot of us who are millennials also, who maybe were a little weird or were queer growing up or whatever, you know, we, I think, show up on the internet and in our spaces and we want to be seen in a way that maybe our conservative family couldn't allow us to be seen. And so there's somewhat of a, almost like a prop we want to give people who manage to be so weird and still loved. And that's kind of what Asmon does, even though he's so philosophically evil. There's something empowering about watching a disgusting man sleep in a roast infested house with like a dead rat, talking about his $2 steak and talking about his trauma, and then becoming so rich that he owes the government $4 million. Like, I just can see why that is so appealing to so many, especially boys on the internet, who are, you know, forgive my French, rotting in their parents' basement, and they are not doing anything with their lives. And Asmon sort of is this, look, I don't have to do anything with my life and I could still be rich and famous, maybe.
What?
I like the transparency to hold LARPers like Hasan accountable.
Keep subbing until you're #1 pass.
Accountable for what? People giving him money?
Like, I literally have my fucking subscription count up there on the top of the corner. I am more transparent with this community, perhaps more than I should be. In a lot of instances, that transparency bites me the fucking ass because dumbass parasocial dipshits think they know better about my situation than I do, and will literally be like, actually, you're not doing a great thing, fuck you, whatever. But even then, I have everything. This is not surprising to many of you who have been in this community for a very long time, because I've had my fucking subscription count up there for years for this particular fucking reason, to be like, look, I'm a fucking leftist and I make a lot of fucking money from subscriptions for content that is literally free. Let's watch this.
What is it? Accountable for what? Like, he's got his sub count on the screen. I don't know what it is about Hasan, but I actually really appreciate Hasan, because a lot of the three-head arguments, like Hasan is like tanking them for me. Because a lot of those people used to be mad about me and use those arguments against me. Then Hasan came on the platform, and now they're over in his chat donating fucking broken logic gotcha questions back to him, and I don't have to deal with it anymore. It's great. Thanks, Hasan.
And that's where this meme comes from, which is that, like, Twitter finding out streamers make money, Hasan, other millionaire streamers. Like, I am the fucking vector of all the hatred. I am the place that you can direct all this anger towards. And by the way, I get the fucking anger.
And so again, can you be rich and famous and good? You know, and okay, so this is a philosophy channel, right? We do philosophy through pop culture. So even saying like good, philosophical evil, like, when we're talking about who we are in the story, we're asking ourselves, how does this relate to our principles? But then you'd have to have principles. And this goes back to Tyler Catastrophe in my last video. He doesn't know himself. And because he doesn't know himself, he doesn't see himself clearly, we can't trust him as a narrator. The reason Asmon feels more trustworthy as a narrator is because he admits he's disgusting. He admits he lives in a rat-infested house. Like, he admits. And so because he owns it so aggressively, we feel like we can trust him more. And I say we generally. I'm not talking about you or me. I'm just talking about the internet. I mean, he is one of the top creators. So whether we like it or not, some form of the internet has decided this man is honest and transparent. And maybe his honesty and transparency also comes in the form of his sort of like antisocial behavior, right? He really unapologetically says the most cruel and disgusting things.
And you're missing a press conference where some mayor is holding a press conference about George Floyd joke on the Kevin Hart roast. You can't insult St. Floyd. Oh no, we can make a million Charlie Kirk jokes, but don't make fun of St. fucking Floyd. Oh my God, give me a break.
Well, I'm fans of racist jokes. I'm fans of racist stereotypes, but I'm not a fan of an actual racist.
I want to be able to say slurs again.
And I think there's something really raw about that. The same reason I think Trump won is this narrative, this psychological phenomenon that happens that makes us believe that these people are more honest because they're saying the inside thoughts out loud.
I'm the chosen one. Somebody had to do it.
The question is, why are those your inside thoughts? This goes to even people on the left like Hasan Piker, who, again, his rhetoric, his way of owning the opposite, or his way of engaging, his desire to even say that he would debate Asmon.
Let's check with the chat first. I mean, I feel like it's such a
too
simple question, right?
boomer
What's the
to
probability of
type
it being a scam?
fast.
Why don't we talk then? No, I'm not. We're not gonna. Oh my God, bro, you're in the chat. Can you stop?
Are you worried?
Oh my God.
We agree. No.
It's just a simple percentage.
Stop begging.
Jesus. No,
really?
I'm not going to debate. I'm not going to go and argue with you about this or whatever. Because again, if you look at all of the evidence presented and you don't come to the conclusion that there is like a 99% chance that this is a scam, you're lying. You're lying. You're obviously lying. It's so clear.
Uh-oh, they're all saying he's a pussy now. Uh-oh.
Such a debate. Yeah, it's not a debate.
You know, even recently is just another indication that these men, these boys who rise to prominence and power, utilize, I think, tools of patriarchy to sort of justify the violence of their rhetoric, to sort of engage with the enemy, to then stay relevant and trending, which is why even Hasan has engaged in like a philosophical evil in the way that he's expressed his upsettedness over real things that are upsetting, right? So when we use the language that we use, we're engaging in a framework that already exists to make a point. And even I've done this in the past, right? I've had to deconstruct a lot of my gender upbringing, a lot of the conditioning I've experienced. Like I'm on this deconstruction journey of gender fluidity. And as I look at more gender or more and more as gender as a performance, you know, very Judith Butler. And I do see that in the past, long time ago, made a lot of videos that were very, trying to be, short and punchy and, say go outside and make friends. Like you don't have friends because you're not going outside, which was like obviously lacking in so much nuance about the human condition, right? Sometimes the men in this space, the male presenting people in this space, they engage in this behavior and somehow can turn it around to make themselves money.
I read your article about you were 2 weeks away from having a public debate with Charlie Kirk.
Yeah,
I have met him before.
Yeah, I've debated him before. Destroyed him.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
but, I mean, not as much as some people.
They're not actually genuinely like I read Rothbard. I'm a huge
They don't
libertarian.
read at all, Hasan. They don't read at all.
Well, I mean, I know that.
No, like when you talk to them about the books behind them on their shelves, like none of them read them. They can't tell you anything about the books behind them on their shelves.
So it's just LARP. They're just fed talking points, and they're just repeating
and
those
putting
talking
mud
points.
on their trucks.
I would go so far as to say, and I hate to, this is not even giving him credit at all, but like I think that's part of the reason why Nick Fuentes has so much appeal is because he is like he can demonstrate basic literacy and competence.
Tucker Carlson, Pat Buchanan. People like that, they're not calling for people to shoot each other in the streets. We're calling for some kind of reconciliation. We've brought in 60 million immigrants in 1965. That's a very big number.
Your family members included, right?
That's really funny. Whether you think that's a good thing or whether you think
why is that funny? Are you not an ethnic minority?
Whether you think that's a good thing or whether you think that's a bad thing,
I do think it's
that is a very important change that's taking place in the country.
Old debate with Charlie's blown up. Yeah, I know. I saw this and I reposted it recently.
Like, why are you trying to always take away their right to protest?
Hold on, I'll show you guys this one. Yeah, this one banged. It got 100,000 likes, and it's filled to the brim with pro Hasan comments. I couldn't believe it. Okay, we're back, baby. We're back. This is my first ever debate at Politicon with Charles Jebediah Kirk. Before he became a prominent Trump administration figurehead. Here it is. Here, look.
It's so hypocritical. Because as soon you can peacefully protest.
No, it's not hypocritical.
Colin Kaepernick peacefully protested, took a knee. How is he doing that? You can't do that. Then if they protest on the streets, it's not acceptable. If they protest peacefully, it's not acceptable. It seems like you just don't want them to protest because I didn't hear you yelling at Tea Party people when they were burning Obama.
And so I wonder in many ways if a lot of femmes struggle to reach true prominence without engaging in these direct games. And I'm not saying that people haven't, and I'm saying that people haven't risen to prominence who haven't, but it's pretty rare, and I can't even for the life of me bring somebody up right now, especially since this relates to capitalism as a whole. So philosophical evil isn't just the words we use to say trending, and it's not just the cruel things we say, it's also the way we utilize monetary gains. So even with women who claim to be more left-leaning, the way they engage in capitalism, or the way that they humble brag about buying their second house, or the way that they don't understand how this is confusing for people who are struggling to buy groceries to listen to them spending $130,000 on, clothing hauls or makeup hauls or whatever else. It is sort of this tone deafness that happens as you rise to prominence.
So, I blacked out. Not a question.
5,900.
Every day on the
3,650.
Oh my god.
I blacked out. I may or may not have totally blacked out.
I may or may not have blacked out. So I went luxury shopping and completely blacked out.
I think the point of this video is to make the pattern that I'm not sure you can be rich and famous without being philosophically evil. And pay attention that I say philosophically evil because that's different. I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in spiritual evilness, which means I don't believe in demons or God or Satan. So when we say philosophical evil, we're talking about ethics, morals, right? This is a philosophy channel. And we do philosophy through pop culture. And right now in pop culture, there is still a very strong disconnect between being capitalist and anti-capitalist. And as an anti-capitalist, there is also a line I cannot cross in order to engage in wealth building that I think a lot of these people like to engage in, even though they say they're on the left, which is confusing. And that is philosophical evil in a form of rhetoric, meaning that they say things that they know will go viral. They do things that will go viral. They just act totally just irrational on purpose. It's an act, it's a performance in order to go viral.
He's got it made.
What does Asmongold do? Because I see him on the kick.
He does like react.
He drinks Coca-Cola and reacts to videos.
Dr. Pepper.
Cool guy though. Shout out to Asmongold.
Yeah, he seems cool.
Yeah.
Flav said Art Basel was gay. Look where he
now
is
I feel
right
bad for being mean to Neon. Neon seems like a nice guy.
And then, they revel in it. They love it. Like Hasan Piker, as an example, loves that Fox News talks about him.
No, it's not really a like or don't like thing. I think
he's
that
handsome. Is that it?
he's objectively handsome. Look at the New York Times profile of him. I mean, he is.
Of course.
My queen.
My queen. He loves the DNC is going for him, even though he's working directly with them.
Tom Steyer is running for California governor. Let me turn this off real quick as well. And we're very excited to have you here. First and foremost, this is a question that I ask every single candidate that sits next to me on the broadcast, which is the Zoran method. What are your five top line policy positions that you want to be defined by?
So I'm running on two things. And I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to put it in a little bit of context.
He was very good at politics already.
Affordability.
Mm-hmm.
And also I feel like there's a straightforward struggle in this election that is the subtext to every policy decision, which is a struggle between working people and what are some would call them the corporate special interest. They're clearly becoming oligarchs, as is a word that I know people have used on your show. But clearly there's a struggle between the corporate interests that are trying to control our state and have controlled our state successfully, and working people who've gotten the shaft for 45 years.
I'm very critical because, in my mind, if I was that rich and that famous, I would use it to be the most radical. And I'm not that rich or famous, so I'm not in that position of power, but he is, and he wants to be. So if he wants to be, he also has to handle the criticism from leftists who are like, hey, you're in this great position of power. Do you want to do something with it instead of like endorse billionaires from California? Like, do you want to do something with it? And probably not, right? Because if his goal is to be famous and bigger, then his goal is to play games, including possibly collabing with Asmon, including, had Charlie Kirk not died, collabing with Charlie Kirk, right? Because at the end of the day, the men in this space also get the benefit of the doubt of their collaborations being business. So i.e. capitalism. So you'll call it activism, but it's not activism, it's business. And that's why I don't engage in those collaborations. And I learned my lesson a few years back of like, be very careful who you collab with, because like, I didn't know, this wasn't just like a teehee YouTubers collabing. This was like a real confusing association, situation. And not only that, but the audience is confused. And I always want to signal to my audience, like, we are leftists, we are queer, we are gender deconstructionists. Like, I am not interested in playing these boy games. But more than that, as a boy, I will just tell you, there is a part of me that understands it so deeply, I can't even start to explain it to you if you don't get it, because boy bubbles do operate in such a specific way, like patriarchy does operate in such a specific way, that I do think a lot of the women who even engage in this sort of sensationalized content are doing it through that capitalistic lens that is married to patriarchy. And don't even forget white supremacy. And that's why I am frustrated when I see the Trisha Paytases who are supposed to be trans and not really queer philosophically. So Trisha's basically a liberal or not even, right? Trisha thinks it's funny to run for office for funsies. Trisha's not serious.
I would love to run for House of Representatives here in California. We have 52, and I would really love to run. They have an election this year, November 3rd, 2026. Huh? What? Oh. Okay. and I do have some bills I would like to present to Congress. So I'm working on that.
Can we just also say we don't actually need gravity? Like, we actually don't need it.
What do you mean that we don't need gravity?
What if it was never invented?
Invented by who?
Sir Isaac Newton.
I really want to be able to like truly make a difference because I see so much horrible stuff happening in the world and right here in California as well. And I'm like, oh, there's nothing I can do. No, there's something I can do. I can run for office. And I wholeheartedly like really wanting to give my all for that.
But to see Trisha sort of engage in a capitalistic engagement of recreating this K-pop song, which again, for me is, less fun. I know people were like, oh, how cute, she made it for her kid. But like, then we didn't need to see it. It was a business move. Once again, it's a capitalistic move. Once again, it's Trisha Paytas utilizing some culture that isn't hers to, bring in views, go viral, stay trending, and it's working. Like, people really love it. And specifically, I know a lot of Koreans love it. So it's not, I'm not trying to speak for the Korean population, but I am trying to say, regardless of how you feel about it, it's still not innocent. I think there's like an innocent benefit of the doubt that people give a lot of people because they kind of think their life looks glamorous or fun, or that's what they would do with money. But I think that's the problem. I think sometimes we compare ourselves to really rich people thinking like, okay, I'll just get rich like them, but then I'll do the right thing. But we know time and time again that doesn't happen. And that's why we say there's no such thing as an ethical billionaire, because the things you would have to do to become a billionaire are just deeply unethical, which is why it feels really silly to kind of, see leftists engage with these people and not be more radical in their work. And yet, I say that as somebody who is, again, moving more left. And by radical in my work, I mean, radically believing that gender is a construct and people deserve to be fed and clothed and people should be educated and loved and violence should be mitigated and we should aim to have real wholesome discussions about life and we should clean up streets. Like, my radical politics or my radical philosophy is that human beings are born on the planet. We're animals and we deserve a dignified life, and all living creatures deserve a dignified life. So my radical stance isn't that radical. It's just up against capitalism or white supremacy or patriarchy. It's radical because, God forbid, I say maybe we should, be less violent, right? Like, and I get it too, because we live in a world that feels really justified in violence. And there's a lot of marginalized people who need violence to feel liberated. And I hear that and I'm not opposed to that. But to everybody else who isn't that marginalized person, right? To everyone else, to all the white supremacists and all the US government and the Trump administration, your violence is not about liberation. Your violence is about domination. And so again, when we engage in these kind of situations, when we see people in sports, team up with the Trump administration, when we see comedians who helped get him elected, all of a sudden they have a problem with Trump, again, all these people became millionaires. They became rich. They became rich off the exploitation of you. And then, we turn around and as an audience, we go, oh, but they're so cool. Oh, they're so like relatable. Oh my God, they're so sweet. And it's like, are they though? Are they? Or are they just exactly with the machine, what the framework of patriarchy and capitalism and white supremacy has curated and continues to curate? Which is why I say, like, love him or hate him, Hasan Piker is a product of exactly those things. Because why is the most prominent leftist a white cis man? And that's because the world isn't ready for someone who doesn't look like him to have a microphone that large. Because we're still in the middle of it. We're not done. So whether it's Tyler Catastrophe or Hasan Piker or Asmongold or Trisha Paytas or any of these people who, note they're all white, who rise to prominence, who stay trending, who are in our faces, we can't get away from them, whatever that is, okay? That is what I would call philosophical evil. There's something here that is connected to all the things we keep saying we're against, but we keep also propping up as like the thing that will save us. So there's a lot of questions that we should be asking ourselves in regards to our own personal life, but also in regards to who we prop up. So again, I'm not saying that Hasan is the most evil thing that ever existed, and I think the Trump administration going after him is disgusting.
Piker says he didn't even know he'd been subpoenaed until he got a phone call from a Fox News producer asking him to comment. Here he was reacting to the news on his live stream.
The news is not great, okay? I mean, it's but still not great. I'm about to be seemingly made an example of in America's I wouldn't even say creep towards fascism. America's galloping towards
fascism.
And I think this administration is exactly what is wrong philosophically wise with humanity. It is just everything that's wrong with patriarchy and white supremacy and capitalism. And I think that's why we have to be so critical of the people we even like, because they're engaging in direct relationship to a lot of these things. And I just think that the reason Trump got elected, when he makes fun of disabled journalists or women or calls people piggy, is the same reason why Hasan Piker and Asmongold and all these people use rhetoric that is philosophically evil, because it appeals to the philosophical evil in all of us and it makes us feel justified. And because we feel justified, we give these people more of a platform. And then we turn around and go, hey, how did Asmon become the number one guy? Wait, when did Hasan become the number one guy? They became the number one guy right behind Trump, because that's where we are right now as a society. And that's why with my Tyler catastrophe video, I tried really hard to move away from the bullying perspective, because I did think that as much as Tyler, and I do think Tyler has a lot of problems and makes me feel very unsafe, and I would feel very uncomfortable if Tyler made content about me. I would genuinely think about a restraining order. With that said, I do think a lot of people were bullying Tyler because they didn't like the way he looked, or they didn't appreciate the way he looked. And I just want to say this as I wrap up today, and I really appreciate you being here. I will never ask neurodivergent people, okay, autistic people, to play nice with neurotypical people. What I'm asking you to do is be kind to everybody, no matter what. In the same way I'm making this request of autistic people, I'm making it of neurotypicals. Allistic people also should learn how other people speak and should meet people where they are and should be kind and loving and should try to understand that not everyone's neurotypical and some autistic people might engage in conversation that is foreign to you. It'd be nice if you learned about it. So at the end of the day, I'm always advocating for all of us to be kinder and more loving. I just think sometimes, and I've done this too as an autistic person, in the name of individuality, in the name of radical acceptance, in the name of agency, we cause a lot of harm while we're trying to figure out who we are. And that's what I was concerned about with Tyler, is like, you know, you don't have to hurt people's feelings because you don't want to do a social script, but you should learn about it. Because I used to do one-on-one work with autistic people, specifically men, and autism or not, like, they were deeply rude, like consent violating, very sexually explicit, very, you know what I mean? Like, I had to eventually block and ban them because it's my autism. Oh, it's my autism. And like, at some point, you know, either this is your autism and we got to talk about it, you know, and or it's an excuse you're using to make women feel uncomfortable and put them in positions, or femmes in positions, or in Tyler's case, to put men in positions that are very uncomfortable and inappropriate. So again, I would never ask autistic people. I would never ask minorities. I would never ask marginalized people to cater to their oppressors. I will also say, while you're not catering to your oppressors, you still need to be kind and compassionate, because isn't that the whole point? Like, are we against the oppressor because they're not kind and compassionate and they're violent and they use bad rhetoric? And that's the point, is that if we're trying to be less bad, then we should be less bad. You know, rich or poor, none of us need to be philosophically evil. But I do think sometimes we give ourselves permission to be because we're surviving, which so fair, right? I've done it. You've done it. And this is a philosophy channel. So at the end of the day, I also do have to encourage you to learn to live and liberate your spirit, even if the world isn't liberated, because you don't need to be an unkind person for the rest of your life, bitter, angry, or self-harming because the world is a bad place. You deserve to live, for this short time you're on earth, a good and wholesome life. And you're not going to do that by justifying philosophical evil in the name of owning the oppressor, which we'll see time and time again moving forward. It's exactly, I'm telling you, it's absolutely connected to why Trump got elected, because white disenfranchised men finally felt seen by an aggressive white rich man who was successful, who stood up for them for the first time, and he pushed back against their oppressors, because, you know, white men always think they're oppressed.
A white man? No! Well, what does security do about it?
Nothing.
Typical!
And I'm just saying, don't fall for the rhetoric. Don't fall for it. You don't have to be philosophically evil just because they are. And by the way, they will doubt you. Asmongold, these people like Asmon will look at you and say, you're just as fucked up as I am. You think this just as much as I am. There are people you want out of this country. There are people you want to see hanged in this country. Like, they will think that of you because that's how they think. And I've had men, YouTubers, explicitly say that to me. Like, explicitly say, like, but you think this, right? And I'm like, no. And that is shocking to them. Be shocking to them by not being as philosophically evil as them. Be shocking to them. Be a shock. If you're going to be a shock factor, may the shock factor be that you are kind and compassionate.